But talking about adjustments and lifestyle, another big part of your life has been Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, martial arts in general, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And what people don't know, because obviously the BJJ community, or let's say the martial arts community, sometimes people don't know when we make references to, for example, black belt or brown belt, people don't understand what that means. So in a nutshell, this is what I understand of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So usually when someone starts Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they start with a white belt, and then there are 4 stripes between each belt, except for the black belt, in which case there's more stripes. But so it takes about a year for them to get out of that and into blue belt, and then 3 years to get out. Usually, I mean, I don't know if this is typical of your club, but usually 3 years to get out of blue belt, and then 2 years to get out of purple belt, and then another maybe 2 years to get into black belt. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, getting to purple belt level, a lot of people have said that this is kind of like black belt in most other martial arts. So a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu means you've been doing it for about 10 to 12 years. That's what it means. So you yourself are a black belt with 4 stripes now. You're in the 4th stripe.
Going on, yeah, alhamdulillah.
So that means to say that if there are 7 stripes, you're going to be eligible for a red belt. Isn't that correct? Or
red, black, and then...
Is it red, black?
And then you go on to the red. So.
Okay, so, I mean, I've only seen maybe 1 or 2 people in the world that have that on YouTube. You've been doing this for a long time, is the moral of the story here. Let me ask you a question. With all that knowledge that you've accumulated with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience, if you had half an hour to teach someone the most important self-defense techniques, obviously we can't demonstrate it now. I know you've done a video with Faraz Zahabi, which you can find on your channel, The Dean Show.
Yes.
And obviously, guys, if you haven't already subscribed to The Dean Show, The Dean Show is a very important channel you have to subscribe to. And go on the video for us as well if you want to see physical demonstrations. But what would you teach someone? What are the 2 or 3 main things maybe that you would teach someone that just to, like, on a basic level, to defend themselves on a self-defense level?
Headlock escape.
Yes.
Bear hug escape.
Yes.
This is something that is very common that's going to happen. Getting grabbed from the choke from behind. Like getting hugged. Bear hug is when someone grabs you from the back. So these kind of self-defense moves that are very key. They're the quintessential moves in Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These are what I would focus on. And that's what we do focus on when people come into our academy.
Your academy is in Chicago.
Chicago, yes. So those are the things that we focus on when you come into core fundamentals of the art. That's the number 1 thing.
So someone who's come, he doesn't or she doesn't know anything about, let's say, self-defense or anything like that. You teach them, okay, these are the escapes to the most common attacks that are basically done on people. So for example, you said headlock escape, bear hug escape. What else? Maybe a couple of other moves.
And we can show them. They can film us. So the movements that are someone on the street, because the headlock is where someone wants to control your head, so then they can control the rest of your body, because where the head goes, the body goes. So they control your head, and you can see this. You see so many, and then it's even more dangerous when someone, if you don't know how to escape, and also if someone is just using all their strength. You've actually had situations where someone is putting on a headlock, you turn your head the wrong way, and now you're into a choke.
Right.
And people have been killed by that.
Wow.
Because you're holding the head, and now instead of turning it, you don't learn to turn it the right way. You turn it the wrong way, and now the person, now it's right across the neck, and now he's holding even tighter, and now all you need is a few seconds, then you go unconscious, then you go brain dead, and then that's it. Wow. You're dead. So these are very detrimental. These are the key, fundamental, quintessential moves of Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Maybe we can do a couple of demonstrations on the podcast. That would be quite
we can do that and show them, absolutely.
Inshallah. In terms of, you were telling me before as well, like in terms of your own development, your own kind of like psychological development, where you started off doing kickboxing, striking, and so you weren't just focused on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but you started off doing kickboxing and striking, all these things, and you were telling me that the kind of focus was different. Like when you're going in, there was a feeling of, let's get these, like, knockout. We want to get a knockout. We want to, But then obviously as you grow older, you start to mature your thinking, and you don't have much to prove now. I mean, obviously you've accomplished X, Y, and Z. So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's just starting up martial arts and maybe has that attitude of, I'm the best, I need to prove myself, and all the rest of it?
That's the beautiful thing. Like, you got to experience. It's a humbling experience.
Yes.
When you start training jiu-jitsu, right? And many people get all that stress out. They come in, and no matter how big you are, strong you are, if you're not technically sound,
yes,
and then you end up just burning yourself out, because it doesn't matter if you are a car that has so much 200, 300, 400 horsepower.
Yeah.
If you have no gas, then it's over. So people come in, and that's why, we demonstrate some moves, and we ask people, for instance, a common move is the mount. That's when someone's on top of you. Imagine someone coming into your house, and now they put you in a position where they're on top of you, and now you have to try to protect your family. How are you going to protect your family? You can't even get up, how vulnerable you are. And then you see how effective it is with one simple technique that you're able to escape, but how vulnerable you are if you don't.
Wow.
So that's a real eye-opener. And then it really humbles the
what's the simple technique that you put into place?
For the mount escape, it's like a table that has, for instance, 4 legs. So you cut off 2 of the legs, and then what you call is the umpa, and then you bridge out, and you escape. Simple technique, but now if you don't know it, now you're in a real jam. So it humbles the biggest of them, just like Royce Gracie, one of my first teachers, where he actually, the earlier UFCs, 170 pounds, and he just defeated everybody. Yes. Some people, like the most collegiate of wrestlers, someone who already knew the ground, Dan Severn, for instance, he had to just wear him down, and it's like playing chess. An example that's given, that you're just patiently waiting, and even though I don't play chess, but just to give a metaphor, that now it's not about, you can maybe finish someone quick, but maybe someone who's very strong. And these guys in the UFC, they were the masters of their craft. That's the one thing. They were the most athletic. They had black belts. One guy came in, and he's got I remember he had 10 different black belts. Yes. But once he was taken to the ground, they all went out the window.
Wow.
Right. But if you're well versed on the ground and not on the top, but then you incorporate the ground, now it's you're holistic, as we call it. Just like we talked about now, being holistic in your life, and spiritually, physically, mentally. So now you're complete as a whole as a martial artist.
One thing that is happening nowadays is I'm not sure if it's as bad in Chicago area. Obviously, the United States has different areas, so it's difficult to generalize. But where you're living in Chicago, etc. But in the UK and in London and etc., there has been a rise in anti-Islamic rhetoric, and obviously that means that people are being attacked, and usually it's the vulnerables. So it's usually women and children. People that obviously you're aware of the latest bullying incident that happened, and so on. So, in terms of vulnerable people that are less strong. Let's say, for example, a woman. If a woman wanted general advice as to how to defend herself against a bigger and stronger opponent, what would be the kind of top 3 things or top 5 things you'd say to her?
Usually with a woman, obviously you have to take this into consideration, that she's much weaker than a man. Yes. So she doesn't want to, even if she knows the technique, she don't want to sit there waiting to submit the guy and stay in a long confrontation. But you learn enough to have confidence. Yes. You learn enough to defend yourself where you can engage, but really look to disengage and get out of the situation as quickly as possible. For instance, what's going to happen is usually the person is going to, and we can demonstrate this earlier, he's going to grab the wrist, for instance, right? Yes. And now instead of expending a lot of energy trying to just pull and get away, get tired, and then maybe he grabs you with 2 hands, you learn some simple but effective techniques, how you can go ahead and free yourself without exerting too much energy, and now you can run. Or the people grabs you. The guy wants to, grab you. That's that bear hug, front bear hug. Now she learns how to go ahead and make the frame, make the distance, put a knee in, and now she's out. She's out of there. And then other things that are very important, just watching your environment, where you're walking. Yes. Right? This is the beautiful thing about our deen, that, it encourages you to have a bodyguard all the time. We call him, yeah. Exactly. And people don't understand that. This is because of the love and reverence that we have for our women folk. I mean, there's usually, we're traveling and all these things. But if she's by herself, that she's going to be, she can't have all the time and that. But you learn these simple yet effective techniques that you can apply them. And imagine if you don't have the techniques. I mean, with the techniques, obviously your chances to defend yourself and to escape are much higher dramatically.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing because if a woman comes into for example, a confrontation of striking with a man, and he's a striker, she's got much less chance. If she goes into a conversation of, like, let's say, pure wrestling, and he's a wrestler, then she got. But BJJ is much more to do with technical ability, isn't it? So it gives a woman much more chance than almost any other. That's how I'm thinking about it. Would you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.